a really thin, sort of breathy whistle, almost a flute, from outside your window. And it might be nothing, it might just be the wind in the awnings.
I definitely shut my window.
You don't look out, you just shut it.
No, I shut it.
The Apocalypse players present A Christmas Inheritance, a Call of Cthulhu 7th edition scenario by Danann McAleer in the style of M.R. James, with Joseph Chance as Edward Caister, Dan Wheeler as Reverend Peregrine McCutcheon, Dominic Allen as Sidney Wagner, and Danann McAleer as the Keeper of Arcane Lore. Part 7. Oh, whistle, and I'll come to you, my lad.
Assuming that's what's happened, Peregrine's double-locked everything, gone to bed in his own room. And the two of you have holed up in Sidney's room, since your door, Edward, is blasted in half by the 12 ball, was it?
Yes. It's a hunting shotgun.
Quite right.
You take the bed, old chap. I'll stay warm in my chulo. And I pull the chulo on my head.
Well, that's absurd. Wagner, you know the rules. You know the rules, Wagner. If you're in another chap's bunk, that fellow gets the bunk, and I'll be fine here on the divan.
I insist. It takes me back to South America. You ever been to South America?
Actually, no, I haven't. I'd very much like to. I've heard that Peru is fascinating, especially.
Oh, Peru is absolutely fascinating. You know, if there's ever an expedition for Peru, you should sign up at once.
Yes.
Irrespective of the risks.
Titicaca.
Wonderful country.
The High Lake. Sounds fascinating.
As this is happening, Peregrine, you hear the whistling outside your window again. Oh. Even in your sort of sleep-addled mind.
Oh.
You could just throw a pillow over yourself and it probably...
I do,
It's faint, but...
In all seriousness, you look bushed, old chap. You really should take the bed. I had at least an hour's sleep. Goodness me, I had the strangest dream that something tried to grab me, and then a GM was very nasty and made me cost 11 luck just to pass my constitution check so that I found out nothing at all. But it's fine. It's a one-shot. It's unlikely that poor Ned will ever make it out of here alive. Now that I've ranted like a madman, perhaps I should take the bed. No, in all seriousness, you should take the bed because I have had some sleep.
Luck is for the long-lived.
That's very kind. Well, I won't say no, because although I feel like I have been asleep, I don't remember a lot of last night, I certainly don't feel rested at all. I feel like I've been running around like a madman.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. But look, I'll just tuck you in. There you go.
Oh, sorry.
Christ.
Good night.
And that's it, he's out.
Yeah, like a light. After a couple of minutes of sleep, in my sleep, I go... Residual madness just fade.
I probably creep out over to Peregrine's room, try the door, realise it's locked, can't, feel a bit nervous. Did you pick up the fez?
No, it's still in the corridor.
And then I see something in the distance of the
on
corridor,
its side.
And I think, what's that shape? And the gun is in my hands.
It's not a small fez either, it's one of those really tall ones.
And I think, what the hell's that? And I creep towards it. Can I do my stealth check?
Please.
Aced it.
That's a relief.
Yep. And I stealthily approach.
I mean, retrieving a fez shouldn't have this much riding on it, really. But
the fez. And presumably at some stage I realise it's a fez.
Well, let's hope so. Sorry, I thought you knew it was the fez.
No, I mean, Joseph knows, but clearly Ned Caister has no clue.
Right, yeah.
One could argue that is one of his ultimate flaws, but he has no clue at this particular point, and he approaches, he realises it's a fez, curses again under his breath, picks it up, but then has one of those strange moments where he looks around in the dark, thinking, why the hell haven't I got my lantern with me? And then tries to tiptoe back to Wagner's room.
Well, perhaps more... It felt to me, at least, like you were almost tempting fate there. And I don't know if there was an element of that maybe in his psyche. It seems he's slightly dishevelled in general by being called Eddie or anything like that, any sort of sense of the order disappearing. So maybe this was an element of testing fate. But maybe it's more disturbing that nothing happens. You don't hear anything. You don't see anything. It suddenly appears as if it's just a big old house with a few creaky floorboards here and there, and perhaps everything up until now has just been childish. Childish, perhaps you've just been letting the others drag your imagination away with them.
Yes. Who would inherit? Oh, such a business. And then I let myself back into Wagner's room, and I sit in the comfortable chair with the shotgun to one side, but not not in my lap.
Sure. Well, in that case, you all sleep. And I'd say you've been awake for long enough and you've been through enough that you sleep for a good long while. And that you probably awake... Peregrine, I'll start with you. You wake up and there is bright sunlight streaming into your room.
Oh, it's a while since I slept this late. I'll go over to the window and open it and see if I can hear the birds. Have a look at the sun and try and gauge what time it is. It's just an old habit. I know I've got my little pocket watch. I could check the time, but I'd like to gauge what time it is by looking at the position of the sun in the sky.
It's probably about 12:30.
Oh,
1 in the afternoon, perhaps.
no. Oh, how can I have slept? I've never slept this late in my life.
To be fair, you've probably not fought bears before in your life, and you didn't get to sleep until probably 6 in the morning, so...
That's true. I'm frankly a bit embarrassed, so I'd sort of try to get myself dressed as quickly as possible and then exit the room and head downstairs to see if the other two are already up and having lunch, perhaps.
As you pass Wagner's room, you hear the distinct sound of Eddie baby, snoring away in the room. Don't know if that affects your choices.
I'd give a... no, it doesn't. I head downstairs to see if I can find William and get him to make me a cup of tea.
Excellent. So you make your way downstairs. You go into the dining room. Where are you headed? I'm heading for just sort of having a little explore of the downstairs. Really, I haven't really seen much of it. The only room I've seen was that study, and I'm not too keen to go back in there right now. As you're walking along the landing, before you go downstairs, do you want to give me a spot hidden?
I'd love to.
I'd love you to.
Oh, that's a hard success.
Oh, a hard success. That's what we like. So, as you pass the room you'd all holed up in the night before, you realise the door has been not fixed, but it's been a board. The lower part of it has been sort of nailed shut against the other part, and there seems to have been some effort to put a block on it. So,
William's been busy.
William seems to have been busy. There were also, since you got a hard success, you realise the carpets that line the centre of the corridors, although it's mainly just polished wood. It seems that there's been perhaps a scrubbing attempt. There's a lot of sort of like circular suds and a bucket over to the side, so it looks like it may not be finished yet. Perhaps he's still about, but he's certainly been trying to clean the floor there.
While I'm there, I'll just have a little look at the floor to see if I can see any evidence of what it was that was being cleaned up. Do I need to do maybe a... I mean, I'm assuming uneasily, I've got a slightly nauseated feeling, thinking this might be blood from vague memories of the early hours.
I think with your hard success, I'll give you that in the sense that unless you want to do a sort of natural world analysis on it, it looks like there's dark red patches around outside that door and trailing off along the corridor on the carpet that seem to have been trying to be scrubbed out.
Oh, well, maybe I'll follow that trail.
Yeah, for sure.
Just to see whether it heads somewhere else in the house or maybe out the door.
Yeah. So if you're following the trail, and the house suddenly seems still quite dark because, of course, most of the doors to the rooms are shut. You're in the corridors upstairs, but you can just about follow this sort of trickle. There's a very slight trickle, and once you get past the door, it's clear that it's droplets of blood soaked into the carpet. He's not managed to make it that far cleaning, and you follow it all the way back to the study on the opposite landing where you were attacked previously.
Oh, God. And the trail goes in there, does it?
It does, yeah.
I'm just going to have maybe listen at the door.
Yeah.
Do a listen roll. I failed my listen roll. I've got 75 listen. I still failed.
That's all right.
Do you know what? I'm actually gonna spend some luck. If that's all right.
Feel free to do whatever you'd like.
Oh God, I hadn't realised how much luck I've already spent. I'm not spending the luck.
Yeah. Good choice.
I'm not spending the luck.
You hear nothing. But as you make your way to the top of the stairs, I assume going back to maybe go downstairs.
Yes, please.
You realise there's also there is a spot of the pattern of the sort of dripping blood heading down the stairs too. So it didn't just head back towards the study. And I've got to emphasise this isn't. It's thicker by the entrance to the room you were holed up in. It's thicker near the study, but there's still traces of it down the corridor, and it seems to head down the stairs as well.
So when I noticed it going down the stairs, oh no, I've seen it. Someone's been cleaning it up. Oh, but still, why is he not still cleaning it up? I just call out, Mr. Purdue? Mr. Purdue?
No response. I mean, he may be in the house, but it's a big house, you know.
Yeah, he may be in the house. I really do need a cup of tea, so I'm going to head down the stairs to... So when we came in the door, it was obvious to me where the dining room was?
Yeah, he sort of indicated the dining room was through the double doors on your left as you came through, so they'd be on your right coming down.
I'm going to head there because presumably there'll be a bell in there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to head in there, maybe make myself comfortable, have a little look around.
There's a lot of tables. It's a dining room designed for hosting.
Oh.
But it's, there's maybe 20 tables with sort of 4 chairs at least around each. But again, as with your initial feeling about the rooms when you first entered them, there's a real feeling of them not having been lived in particularly.
This whole place feels like a hotel. It's very strange. It's giving me
It's very shining, isn't it?
It's yeah.
There's a photo on the wall. Sydney's face.
So is there a bell that I can call for service?
There's a bell over by a side door which you assume leads to the kitchens.
Well, the first thing I do is go and ring that bell.
Excellent. So you ring it and nothing happens initially. Anyway, I'm at that point I'm going to cut back to Sydney and Edward. I imagine you're sort of drifting away.
Red rum on the doors.
As you would be, yeah.
Asleep.
That's odd. The blood usually gets off at the second floor. And Edward and Sydney sort of waking up together in a clinch. And
yes. It really is like old times. I look at the red rum written there and I say, "Gosh, wasn't that? Didn't he come in number 2 with the gold cup?"
Oh yes, I took a nice flutter on old red rum, made a mint. Now I make it a habit of mine, a sort of sign of luck, to write it on any door I see.
You really should stop that in my house, for goodness sake. I say,
it'll bring you riches, Ned.
Oh, thank you.
If I hadn't written red rum on your old house, maybe you wouldn't have inherited this place.
And I actually do put my hand on his shoulder and I say,
Ah!
"Oh, sorry, no, I didn't mean it like that." I gently put my hand on his upper arm. I see if he reacts. Oh, no, in all seriousness, you've rather hit a nerve there. I had hoped this might be the end of my, in all truth, my days at the office sometimes drag heavily upon me, dear man, and There are moments when I dream of being able to be, well, the manager of an estate. And what a dreadful start. What a dreadful
Eddie,
start.
it's not all, it doesn't have to be office job or lord of the manor. There's another way where you can be your own self and you can express yourself. Show business.
Oh, you're so 20th century. I can't think ahead to there. I'm stuck here in the old era.
The money is, of course, all in psychical research these days, but I do pine for the old days, the old...
I pick up my bell.
Music hall!
Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. But I'm not interrupting him. It's all in the sequence of the music hall. Yes, tell me more of the music hall.
I've played all the old haunts. Now, mesmerism is obviously a very new subject. As an entertainment spectacle, it's bar none. There's nothing really that compares to it, but people do get superstitious about it. Then again, it's the sort of thing that's been used to occupy the attention, entertain, if you will, the masses for a long time. It's just before it was under the guise of spiritual trickery, whereas now it's much more scientific. Yes, I believe that we can use mesmerism and psychical research to eventually elevate ourselves to the next evolutionary step, and that perhaps we will make contact with other species in the universe who will be able to pop into our minds and borrow them temporarily so that they can help elevate human society. Where our minds will go, I don't know.
Goodness me, Sydney, I haven't even had a cup of tea. It's a marvellous thing to have said. Ding-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling-a-ling. I ring it again with a slightly heavy brow this time. Slightly furrow.
Peregrine,
I wonder if they have any pu'er tea.
as Peregrine, you hear the ringing from upstairs, as yours has been ignored as well. Just as you're thinking, well, obviously the staff haven't arrived back yet. You hear a scuffing of boots near the front door, through the double doors.
I do, Peregrine does.
You do, yeah. And you hear William say, hello? Anyone up? Up and about?
I make my way out of the dining room. Rather than... I'm not the sort of person to shout from another room, so I make my way out of the dining room.
Reverend Peregrine McCutcheon, if I'm not mistaken. How did you sleep?
Embarrassingly well, I must say. I've never slept this late in my life.
Nothing embarrassing about it. That's
the
Norfolk life for you.
If my mother knew I'd slept this late, or my old choir master, or anyone for that matter, it's really quite out of the ordinary. But I wondered if you'd be able to fix me a cup of tea.
Absolutely, sir. I was just... unfortunately, there's been some trouble down the road. More trees felled in the night. What with the winds and everything. I don't know if you heard them. There was
I didn't. At the house. I didn't. But, I did hear a little a whistling. It didn't sound like wind, but I suppose it must have been.
The angles of the house are very strange. Anyway, I'm here now, and yes, I'll get straight on that. The staff will be along soon enough, but it might take them a while longer considering the blockage in the road.
Understood.
And he shuffles into the kitchen.
I'm not. Mr. Perdue, I'm not a stranger to a kitchen. If you've got other things to attend to, I don't mind at all if you want to show me the direction of the kettle and the tea leaves.
Absolutely, I'll make it for you, sir. But if you'd rather make it yourself, it's just through that door there, and you go along, follow it round, and it only leads to the kitchen and further down the servants' quarters, but.
If that's all right with you, it's nice for me to be able to have a little explore of the place.
Shall I go up and check on the others, or shall I leave them to sleep?
I heard them sleeping a short while ago, but maybe you could give them a knock and see if they want anything for breakfast.
Well, I wouldn't like to be rude, but I'll ask them if they want some breakfast prepared for them.
Absolutely.
He makes his way up the stairs,
and I make my way towards the kitchen.
Lovely. So the other two of you. You hear just outside the room, you hear a morning, gents.
Huh! Jesus Christ. Yes. Well, you ring a bell and then suddenly they do arrive.
Right in the middle of an anecdote about Great Yarmouth.
I
guess we'll never hear the punchline of that one.
I'm so sorry. Although...
No, I'm sorry, sir. Well...
I go and open the door. What?
He looks...
Sorry. Good morning.
You immediately undo all of the bonding you did the night before. And the hours improvisation of bonding you'd done the night before. And
Good morning, Mr. Purdy.
Hello, sir.
William.
I've been chatting to your compatriot, Reverend Peregrine McCutcheon downstairs. He's making himself some tea, he insisted, sir, but I was thinking, do you want anything for breakfast? I'll put it together for you.
Oh, that would be delightful, yes. Just some bacon and some eggs, and maybe some ham as well on the bacon as well.
I don't suppose there's any kedgeree, is there?
Some kedgeree would be lovely, actually, yes.
Oh,
do you have any mackerel, actually? Because sometimes I quite like a mackerel. Well, just throw something together.
Mackerel.
Using all of those sort of things. And
ham wrapped in bacon and kedgeree wrapped in kippers. I'll see what I can do.
I'll tell you what, Mr. Purdy. When I was touring the east coast of the United States, you couldn't get kedgeree for love nor money.
Is that right?
They don't have it. They don't have it. They don't have it.
Tough to find kedgeree.
Even in New York?
Even in New York.
No, I had a brother in Arkham said they only served kedgeree in the mornings, but
they probably call it kedgeree, but it's probably something else. It's probably salmon with grits.
Oh yeah,
they love grits in Boston. I don't even know what grits are.
Sounds unappetizing, doesn't it? So maybe the sort of thing you get in Harlem, I would have thought.
Well, that's it. If I wanted to eat grits, I'd go and lick up the gravel on the lawn. Anyway, I'll see to that. And he goes off down the corridor. You're aware that if you're leaving the room or if you're staying where you are, well, all of you are aware, Peregrine, obviously you're heading into the kitchens, but it's brighter than you've not seen the house in the light, but it seems very sunny and bright anyway.
Good God, is that the time? That would make sense of why it's as clear as it is. Well, look, I must wash up. I'm in a frightful state. Oh, but actually, Wagner, Sydney, my dear friend, you know how sensitive McCutcheon is, how insightful he can be about others. I think he hit something. I thought he was wide of the mark when he first said it, but I think I've been a little tough on you since our arrival here. And it's precisely because of this business of, wanting to avoid the quotidian. This lawyerly life of mine is weighing heavily on my shoulders. And in truth, I thought this red letter day was going to deliver something a lot better and a lot more smoothly.
I don't think you've been very tough on me, old chap.
I have. Nonsense. I was snappy with you. You were only doing your best.
No, I don't think so. I think everything's been fairly normal, hasn't it?
I got on a high horse, and I just realised it now, listening to myself, and I was thinking...
Eddie, I put my hand on your shoulder. Eddie, I'm an excellent judge of character. My business is the psyche. And I can tell you, there's nothing you've said or done that's upset me in the least.
Well, that's very kind.
That's unfortunate.
That's very kind. Anyway, I must go and wash up. Thank you. And I go through to my door, realise that it's been mended, think about kicking it. Don't. And if I'm hoping there might be some kind of water left for us in our
there's a basin in each of them. Yes.
And hopefully not so cold that I have to crack the ice.
No, not quite that bad.
Yeah, it's a storm.
Still bracing.
Yeah. Well, I shall strip down to the waistband and ablute.
Please do.
A frightful sight.
Sydney, where are you off to?
I might do my ablutions as well.
Excellent. Well,
singing very forcefully as I do.
Quite so.
Captain Races sing this song, a-doo-dah, doo-dah. Captain Races 5 miles long, oh-doo-dah day, oh-doo-dah day, oh-doo-dah day.
Be glad you're in the kitchens, Peregrine.
I feel so alive.
I'm glad I'm in the kitchen, and I'm glad Dom is the one who has to deal with his own improvisation in the edit.
So the kitchens, when you go down to them, obviously Eddie's been there the night before, so you can see sort of fragments of cheese left out on the side, and but it's pretty clean for what it is, and it's easy to find the tea and coffee making facilities. It's all very modern and very spacious, and there's not much to say except that. So
I start to make myself a pot of tea.
Lovely. In fact, I'll say, considering how long that song was, that you've made your cup of tea and made your way back up to the dining area.
Great.
Oh, da day.
You just catch the last harmonics on that.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done any singing myself, but I was a choral scholar at school, and Sydney was not. I remember that. I remember that very well. And so in the dining room, presumably there are other windows that overlook.
Yeah. All the curtains are drawn, but there's various tall windows.
Well, I move over and start drawing the curtains.
Right.
Undrawing, opening.
Yeah.
Curtains.
Well, you get a sort of a rush of dust with each one. It's almost as if they've not been opened in quite some time. But each one, the windows are still clean, and you get a huge amount of light through each one. The dining room suddenly seems a far friendlier place than it did before. And looking out, you can see the lawn and the trees in the distance, and you get this great sense of scale and friendliness. It seems, perhaps you start to think a lot of the things, the menacing things, the sort of superstitious things you thought about the place upon arrival in the night, maybe they were just the fantasies of, nighttime.
Is there is there a sort of porch or terrace out the front?
There's a small terrace with steps leading down sort of on either side.
I might actually just take myself out and enjoy, since it's the middle of the day. It's the best bit of the day, really, and and it seems like such a nice day, right? The sun is blazing.
Yeah,
one of those beautiful clear winter days.
Which seems like it was so cloudy the day before, even before dark. But yeah,
and a calm after a storm, I guess.
Absolutely. So
I'd like to take myself out. Yeah, and enjoy my pot of tea on the sort of terrace.
There's no chairs on the terrace, but there's like sort of conveniently. I know. There's conveniently sort of level not mantelpieces, but
that's fine. I don't need to sit. Just somewhere to put the pot of tea and pour it out.
You can look out from there across the front lawn.
Lovely.
Would you like to do a spot hidden?
Yes, I would. I'm not actively looking for anything, but I'm observing.
It's not even
the ground.
Really, if I'm honest, a spot hidden. But
it's a look.
Wondering if you'd like to
do a look.
Yes. From your vantage point.
Use your eyes.
I'd like to use my eyes using the spot hidden skill written on my character sheet.
Excellent.
I'm 1 over, but I'm going to spend the luck.
Excellent. So, as you move out and you sort of plonk your tea or your coffee, whatever it is you've made a pot of on the sort of the balcony, I guess, the balustrade out front, you get a full look at the place. So turning back round, it's an extravagant build, this house. It's greying. It's an oddly sort of depressive look for such an extravagant house. But and then as you're looking at the front on your left side, there's paths leading off. There's what looks like maybe the front of a stables. There's a path leading off into the woods over there. And then you've got this huge, wide expanse of lawn in front of you, with the woods at the back. And then over to the right, you can now see clearly in daylight. You can see the Greco-Roman temple and the sort of the lines of, what you assume are part of the same thing. This sort of falsified ruins, sort of half knee-high walls and half little trenches, expanding across a tiny bit of the lawn. And even further over to the right, just before the edge of the house takes your gaze away, the front of the maze, and you've just got a lovely expansive view of it. Do you get a hard success or just a normal success?
No, normal.
Cool. One thing, I think, because you're into botany, the front of the house seems to be surrounded with little planters full of roses.
Nice.
Which were kept in very good condition. But yeah,
there obviously won't be any blooms on them at this time of year, but
there are.
There are.
Yeah.
Oh,
that's probably why it draws your attention.
Yeah, that is curious. Maybe can I have a closer look at them?
Yeah, for sure.
maybe I'll do I might do a botany roll on them to see if I can learn anything more about what genus they are. That's fascinating that they're in bloom at this time of year. I don't know.
Yeah.
In this
seems strange.
And that's a hard success on my botany roll. Can I glean anything about these roses?
There may be a genus or a subspecies that you've not encountered before. It's not that there's anything particularly different about them. They're slightly darker than the usual sort of classically red roses. And you wonder if they're a sort of a strain from one of the hardier countries, perhaps, that blooms later. It still seems odd that they'd be this late. And looking at the soil in each of the sort of stone pots, you see that the soil's quite white. It seems quite sort of powdery and white. But that's all you really glean. They look healthy enough. They're not huge blooming roses, but the fact they're blooming at all is odd. It's
Can I sorry, chaps. Can I have another look at the soil, doing a natural world roll to see if...
Yeah.
Is it like wondering whether is it a particularly sandy soil, or... I think I'm wondering whether it's got maybe some bone ash mixed in with it or something. With my natural world, that's just a normal success on my natural world to see if I can see anything about the soil they're planted in.
Yeah, so it seems like you maybe remember some time spent with gardeners. Perhaps you went up north for a while or somewhere slightly more hardier territory who swore to bone meal being the most essential thing in keeping plants hardy throughout the year. But I mean, for a rose to be blooming at this time of year is more than hardy. But you do get the look that looking at the soil, it's soil, but there seems an overabundance of powdered, what you sure must be bone meal.
Must be bone, yeah. Okay, well, fine. I mean, I'm not a gardener. Yeah, I'm not an expert gardener, really. More of an observer of plants than a cultivator of them, to be honest. So I'll take this on board and maybe try it back home. Enjoy the rest of my cup of tea.
So the other two of you, what are you up to, you cheeky little rascals?
I shall shave.
Excellent. I make my toilet, sit on it, and then go on my way.
I think, having performed my ablutions, I shall go in search of this kedgeree to see if it has been prepared.
Does Sydney wear a beard?
I wear a moustache, pencil thin.
Yes, as do I, yes.
A moustache. And I keep my hair coiffured in a sort of very slick parting, but it curls up at the bottom from wearing so many hats,
yes,
really.
Yes, perfect for the supporting of hats.
Sort of slightly out of date, a bit Lewis Carrollian, sort of slightly old-fashioned.
Yeah, yes. But I shall shave as swiftly as I can, because I do want to get down there, but I want to present, because I look tired, but I want to present as a gentleman, and not in the déshabille that I was last night. And I'll keep the shotgun with me. And I'm moving at speed, as fast as I can possibly do this. In fact, maybe I nick myself slightly, shaving. Blast it.
One of those land sharks comes straight at you.
Yeah. Oh, God, land sharks again, not again.
Great.
But yes, you get the picture.
Well, so, Sydney, you were heading down to see how the kedgeree was doing. You find William's there in the kitchen on his own, sort of chopping mackerel and sort of boiling eggs and trying to keep track of it. He doesn't seem overwhelmed. He seems like he might be actually making up a rather delicious kedgeree given time, but
this smells absolutely terrific.
Oh, thank you, sir. I knows my stuff when I knows my stuff, and when I don't. But I might be able to make this nice.
Well, I think it smells absolutely smashing. Lots of turmeric, I think, is the key, and salt, really, for me. Anyway, how are you? You live on the site, right?
Oh, that's right, sir. Just near the gates, I got my little cottage there, yeah.
Right. Are you a married man? That's not too forward a question.
No, not forward at all. I'm not, sir, no.
Oh, right. Oh, well...
Not
me
so,
neither.
Not so many girls around the place when you're working hard as a young man, and then you sort of you realise you've lost your chance in a way, don't you? So, but that's all one.
Yes. Well, so no children then?
No children. Not for me, sir.
No.
But there's plenty enough children around these parts. I don't think without me having to add my own to the mess.
Well, indeed, it seems so. Last night there was an absolute horde of them.
Yes, you're not wrong. God bless them. God bless them.
I do hope that young... Sorry?
God bless them, I said.
Oh, yes. You crossed yourself, did you?
Well, yes.
Are you... again, not too personal. I don't mean to pry. It's just... I like meeting new people. You a Catholic man yourself?
Why... I always say it's best for the cleverer people to sort out what we are. I know I'm a Christian. That's all I need to know.
Right.
So, whether it's basics or whatnot, that's all that concerns me.
Well, that's a very charming attitude to have to something that's caused so many wars over human history. But
well, I always think, sir. And he sort of comes back at you, maybe in a way you didn't expect. Sort of says, perhaps if more people were that simple-minded, there wouldn't have been so many Moors.
Well, perhaps yes. I mean, it's always easier to be gullible than to be to have the conviction of one's own thoughts. I myself have an affinity for the Catholic Church purely because of their spiritual traditions, but I can't bring myself to believe in God, unfortunately. I think the truth is probably far more mysterious and unfathomable than we can possibly guess.
I see. Do you
believe in ghosts?
I believe in ghosts, sir, but I'm not scared of them.
Oh, no, well, have you ever seen one?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Oh, yes.
In the house?
Oh, well, I've seen ghosts most places I've gone.
Oh.
What do you mean by ghosts, sir?
Well, what do you mean by ghosts?
Well, I mean those people that are gone and won't be coming back.
But they do.
Well, I suppose that's a matter of perception, sir.
Well, are you being metaphorical with me? Are you talking about memories, or are you talking about actual seeing a visitation?
I'm not messing with you, sir. It's just...
Oh, no, I'm not being facetious. I genuinely...
Perhaps it's having lived on my own for so long. I sometimes think I see people I've known years since, and perhaps it's just me in a reflection, or... Yeah, I wouldn't like to say for certain, but I believe in ghosts. I don't find them to scare me. I find them to comfort me.
Right. Well, I quite agree. I think the spirit world is very complex as our own, and some spirits are, it's like a person who lashes out if they're violent. It's probably because they've got a lot going on that needs help. And I think the same is true for the spirit world.
I don't know, sir. I'll go with you a certain amount of ways, but from my experience, there's certain folks that they're just violent because they's violent. And nothing you do can stop that. Violence is its own. And some folks is just not there in the head, and they'll be violent.
There's that refreshing black and white worldview that you apply to religion as well. I love it. Marvellous. Well, are the others down?
Well, I think they might be, sir. Go and have a look in the dressing room. I'll bring this kedgeree up shortly.
Oh, charming. I'll take it in the dining room unless they're about here, and I'll sort of wander through the house.
Peregrine is out on the terrace, looking over the estate. In the manner of one who's... Well, it's not your estate, but you seem to be viewing it as if it was. Edward, where are you?
I think I'm making my way... I'm just at the bottom of the stair, stepping off the very last step. And
so,
drinking in that golden view.
As you make your way towards the front door, out towards the terrace, Sydney joins you from the right. coming out of the dining hall area. And so the three of you are suddenly there on the terrace looking out over the place as a whole.
You know, the big killer in a few years, they reckon, is going to be the Spanish flu. We're not ready for it. They keep talking about a war, but it's not going to be a war. It's going to be a flu.
The Spanish flu?
People keep going on about the Ottoman Turks, but it won't be. It'll be
going to be the Turks, old man. It's going to be the Turks. We all know that. Sick man of Europe.
So I'll give you... Sorry, mid-conversation, I'm just going to say, as you're talking, I'll give you...
How dare you interrupt me?
Well... I dare, as I am God.
He's the master. He's the
the provost of King's College, Cambridge, has no qualms about such things. But just while you're talking, I'm just going to take it for read that the two of you have the same look about the grounds in daylight for the first time as Peregrine has. So you take in what he has, and if you have any questions later, that's fine. I'm assuming you've taken a good look at the environment.
I mean... If are we facing? We're facing where I saw the holly bush.
Yes,
right, that bush. So I mean, it's still haunting me somewhere, even despite my cheerful demeanour. So I am gonna cast my eye carefully over it, just to see if I can see anything.
Feel free.
I'm doing it now.
Excellent.
Do you want me to roll for that?
No, I don't. There's nothing out of the ordinary. Tree line's relatively neat. Slightly frayed. And
that itself makes me feel it's out of the ordinary.
Is everything all right, Wagner? You look as if you've seen a... Oh, well, I suppose that's not quite appropriate, but it looks as if you've seen something.
You know, I was just chatting to Mr. Purdue in the what are those rooms called? Kitchens. And you know, I asked him about ghosts because of my professional interest.
You did?
And I've had a lot of conversations about ghosts in my time.
I can imagine.
None quite as unusual as the one with him. He said that he sees ghosts everywhere. He sees them as quite friendly. And they're always people he knows, I think. I asked him if he'd seen ghosts here. He said all the time. But he didn't elaborate on... Normally, a house like this, you know, someone say, oh, yes, well, there's the old creak on the stair because old... Count What's-His-Face hanged himself back in '03 and he's haunted it ever since, and the Roman Legion walks through the garden every night on a full moon. None of that. Which in itself I think is rather strange.
Oh,
don't you?
I do. Is that Peregrine?
Yeah.
Pip, is that you?
Hello, yes. Good morning or afternoon, I suppose. You, like me, slept in quite late, it seems.
Goodness me, the time, eh?
Yes, I was thinking, given the hour, there's not an awful lot of daylight left in the day, but it's such a beautiful afternoon. I wonder whether we should take this opportunity to look around the grounds in daylight. Maybe take another look at that maze, or even that curious sort of classical folly.
I quite agree. And you know, I couldn't sleep again without having a look for this child. I know the worst has probably happened if it's happened, but still, one's conscience must be appeased, you know?
Quite right.
It's my experience these things shouldn't be done on an empty stomach. I believe William is whipping up a storm.
As you say that, William appears at the doorway, sort of holding a platter with kedgeree, poached eggs on toast, all sorts. And it looks a bit of a mess, but each individual thing seems quite well cooked. And he sort of lays it down and says, let me just grab you some chairs.
Oh, you've done a whiz-bang job with this kedgeree there, Mr. Pewdie.
Oh, thank you, sir. You know, I'm partial to a spot of mackerel myself, eggs and all the rest of it. So there we go. And he sort of pops back in and brings out a few garden chairs, and it's all there.
Mr. Purdue, my memory of the early hours of the morning are a little hazy, but I believe we asked you a few questions about the maze, and you weren't able to offer us any insight into how we might navigate it.
Well, I all I can say is what I said to you last night. I could lead you the way, but it's I don't know whether it was something in my mind or otherwise. I couldn't rightly draw it down. It's something I've learned by feeling the walls.
Would you have time to do that after we finish?
Of course, yes.
Eat this, get this down us quite quickly, and then maybe do
yes.
that. In this
I remember
lovely
you were talking about the family plot last night and the temple and the maze. So
That's
any
right.
one of those you'd like to look at, I'd be happy to show you.
Well,
what they were.
Personally, I'd be interested in seeing all of them, but maybe the maze would be a good place to start.
Oh yes, well the maze, you know where it is, off to the right there.
And would you be kind enough to show us the way through it?
Of course. Family plot's over to your left, and well, yes, if it's the maze you want, let me just go and get cleaned up, and I'll.
Mr. Priddy, before you go.
Yes.
Is there a feature at the centre of the maze?
Well, I don't know. Yes, I suppose there is. So
what is it?
Called a feature. It's sort of a brass. I don't know. What would you call it? A feature, I suppose. You're right. Yes.
Like a fountain?
It's a good question,
not a
Sidney.
fountain.
Good question.
More of a monument, I suppose. A sort of a. I don't know what the symbols mean on it, but. Yes, in the centre there's some statues and a sort of centrepiece, I suppose you'd call it.
I think that would be fascinating. I think we'd all be very interested in seeing that.
I blanch and eat my kedgeree.
I remember there was a lady, as in a lady of the land, who was interested in such things a few years back. She was trying to write something about them. She had a fascination with mazes and the monuments therein. I really can't remember the name of her. I think she was a Suffolk woman.
Oh, lady... I've never met anyone from Suffolk.
Well, probably best not, given the old rivalries, Given the old rivalries, especially up this...
Very good, sir, very good. And he sort of shuffles off inside.
Yes. Oh, by the way, William, did you mention some Javan bean?
I won't take offence, sir, but I'm sure I never mentioned anything of the sort.
You mentioned some coffee.
Oh, I see. Yes. We can make some coffee up for you, certainly.
Do fix a flask, but waste no time. Hot water, straight in. Grind it up, and then hot water, straight in. Indian style.
Excellent.
Yes.
I see. Man of the Orient there, and the sort of
something
shuffles
like
off.
that, yes. What do you make of this, Peregrine? Monuments?
What do I make of the fact that you had become a coffee drinker? I don't know. What a interesting European taste you've developed there. What's wrong with a cup of tea?
Oh, well, I've enjoyed this cup of tea. It's been excellent. But I think for the journey into the maze, something a little stiffer might be needed. Well, I've got the brandy, of course, but that doesn't quite count, does it?
As you're chatting on the terrace and William's gone back inside to cull the Java bean, or God knows what he's going to do with the instructions he was given.
3 big teaspoons of Nescafe in a...
Quite right.
Be camp coffee or something.
Could you give me a...
That suits Sydney.
Lovecraft's favourite.
Could you give me a sort of post-emptive psychology roll, maybe? Or what would be best? Yeah, maybe a psychology roll on his last sort of interaction with you.
I think I'd like to try and push that.
Yeah?
On the basis that, I am a lawyer by training.
Yeah.
And I saw a hesitation. And I actually get up and walk over to the door, and I sort of, while the other two are chatting away, I pause and I lean on the door, and I do my thinking face, which I've yet to do in this journey.
An impressive face.
In this journey so far. But I do I place the back of 3 fingers against my brow, and I lean slightly towards the lintel of the door. And then I thrum upon my thigh as a sort of oboist might to try and find the beat. And then
I'm not the only spiritual researcher here, clearly.
Clearly.
And I really do pass. It's an excellent pass in my psychology.
Okay, fantastic. Well, as he leaves, you realise that he mentioned a couple of times something which was ignored in general, but brings back slightly to what you were talking about when he was in the capuchon and drinking the brandy the night before, and maybe was a little more loose-tongued. And he realised he mentioned... Well, he referenced a couple of times with an air of not quite. He seemed slightly nervous about it, perhaps, but seemed like he expected you to bring it up, even though you didn't. The family plot.
Yeah, he keeps bringing it up.
And it seems to you, sort of realising that, like the night before, that was one of the things you were asking him about and he had admitted to, and it seems maybe the fact he's brought it up this morning means he was expecting you to bring it up and you didn't, but the recollection of it means something. And he did point to where it was, but that's all you get, a sort of sense of he was maybe expecting you to say, well, the family plot then, we should go there, and you said the maze, and he seemed not relieved, but maybe just slightly.
And the two are not. We couldn't easily pass the family plot on the way to the.
They're opposite directions. But
I think I return immediately from the doorway to Peregrine. I think only because of the proximity to the subject matter, and I feel like he understands. But it's a very open statement, and I say, "Oh, Peregrine, I've been a fool. He mentioned last night that an interest in the plot. He wants me to take an interest in the plot."
I've heard him mention that family plot a couple of times. It's a curious thing for him to keep harping on about. Terribly sort of morbid in a way, and I know that seems strange of me as a man of the cloth to say that. If you're looking for an excuse to visit it, I could offer to perform a blessing over it.
Well, last night he seemed a little nervous about it. I was just thinking, if we need him to navigate the maze, perhaps we could split up. One of us go to the plot. If he's uncomfortable going to the plot, it's probably best we go without his knowledge.
Do you think he's uncomfortable about it? Or do you think he wants us to go there?
Oh, I don't know. Last night he didn't seem that keen about it. It sounded like he'd slipped up by mentioning it. I don't know why he'd want to keep it a secret.
People can become superstitious, can't they, over time?
Oh, indeed.
I say, glancing over my shoulder, making sure they're not being overheard.
Well, he says he keeps seeing ghosts of people he knows. Perhaps he sees ghosts of former residents.
Well, it's the sort of thing one might find in a weekly periodical of a thrilling nature, such as Dickens might have written, but yes.
He mentioned he has no family, no wife, no children. Perhaps his loneliness drives him to sit by the graves and speak to them in that way that some people do.
I'm glad that you asked about children. That was clever of you, Sidney.
Oh, was it?
I was suspicious that Leaf might have been his own child.
I was suspicious that Leaf might have been some relation as well. I wondered whether maybe a brother. He seemed very protective, but also infuriated in that way that you can own that combination that really is only something you feel about a member of your own family.
I say, Ed, with these sorts of arrangements with staff who live on the grounds, do they share the family plot? Would if he had family prior, would they be buried there?
And not in that plot, no. It would be, and I can be corrected by this by checking in my little book. But I'm fairly sure
how to be a landowner.
You did check the staff records, and everything was numbered, and there was no records of dismissals or anything like that. Yes. So no long-term staff.
Listen, what time are we expecting Ainsworth here today?
Oh, don't be so crestfallen, Sid. Come on.
No, sorry. It's just at the mention of his name, I can't help but remember what I thought I saw last night.
What? What did you think you saw last night?
Did I not mention it?
To do with Polly?
I saw her.
You've been looking all moonish over in that corner 3 or 4 times this morning already.
I can't believe I didn't say. Perhaps I didn't. I
think we should all be quite clear with each other what we thought we saw last night.
Gentlemen, anything I can do for you?
I'm trying to... Oh, no, thank you.
Yes.
Sorry to interrupt.
We've just about finished our breakfast, so maybe we could make our way over to the maze. But
yes, absolutely.
If it's all right, I'd really like to take some rubbings from the headstones in the family plot.
Yes, rubbings.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Records. Yes, quite right, sir. Yes, I'm surprised no one has before. And
the Reverend's always on the lookout for new gravestone designs, isn't that right, Peregrine?
Yeah, that's absolutely correct. Yeah.
Nothing gets him more excited than a good fierce rubbing.
And really, I know it seems strange, but there's nowhere like a small little graveyard for interesting fungi.
Well, I say you're right about that, sir.
And often very beautiful lichens growing on the stones, depending on the age.
He wants to see some moss and rub his stones, that's all.
Oh, my God. I'll just take these inside. He takes... I'll be back out with you in a minute to show you around the maze.
Sorry, Ned, if I spoke out of turn there. It was the first thing that came into my head for an excuse to visit the plot.
Not at all. Good thinking, I thought. And, I think the whole morning's taken on a distinctly more wholesome turn at the mere mention of it. Your stones rubbing against my ancient ancestors. Nothing finer. Nothing.
Would one of you like to accompany me, or shall I make my way there and you can both stay with Purdue and visit the maze?
Well, I don't mind. I feel like, Edward, you've got the duty to make some kind of connection with this man. I could be a free agent. I can go wherever I'm needed. What do you think?
Well, while I agree with you, I wouldn't like you to be going alone. No offence meant. Not that you can't look after yourself, but rather more that there's something here that... Well, gentlemen, what I was going to say was, before we were interrupted, I have a distinctly uneasy sense, despite the beautiful day, that last night wasn't quite right in my own mind. Now, I think certain things, shall we say, to quote Theseus, certain aspects, a bush may have supposed itself a bear. But... having said that...
How easily is a bush supposed a bear?
How easily, indeed, yes. Well done for correcting me on my point. It wasn't really my thing, actually. More yours, Peregrine. I should have looked to you for the exact quotation. But if I remember correctly...
well, if I was to take 2 books to a desert island, they would probably be the Bible and the complete works of Shakespeare.
Really?
A sad tale's best for winter, I say, trying to join in.
I mean, many of us would think we only had 90 more minutes left, but I would say, tell us more.
No, that's it.
Oh, right. Oh, well, it was marvellous. Perhaps don't publish it as a play, but yes.
So,
well, what I was about to say before we were interrupted was I think I fancied I saw a holly bush over there last night in the moonlight. And in it, I saw the face of Peter Ainsworth.
All right, gentlemen, how are you?
I think I'm absolutely...
Good, kedgeree.
I'm gobsmacked by the statement. And even with William's arrival, I'm just stood staring at the point where the pale finger of Sidney Wagner last pointed.
And I'm sort of shifting uneasily because that makes perfect sense of why he was acting so strangely last night at the window, although he didn't actually articulate himself.
Who am I taking to the maze, was it? And who's off to the plot and the herb gardens and the rest of the lab?
I believe it was the gouty finger of Sidney Wagner, actually.
The pale but gouty finger.
I see.
The pale but roseate finger.
Well, I'm going to make my way to the family plot and certainly have a look at the herb garden on the way.
I see.
I think perhaps, yes, I should probably accompany you there, shouldn't I? I say, looking at Wagner in fear.
Excellent.
I think that's probably a good idea, so you can pay your respects to your ancestors.
Yes.
And I'm sure me and Mr. Wagner, we can turn over the maze as quick as anyone. Shall we, Sidney?
Great. Well, I'm ready to go.
Excellent.
With you?
No, wait. I feel like we're making a mistake here, gentlemen. Surely I should be the one who should go to the maze. And Wagner, with your sensitivities and understanding of the nature of things, you two will only be here for a number of months. I will be here for many years to come. I will be able to take stock of the family plot at any time. And when you next visit me, you too can enjoy the surroundings of the house.
Oh, yes.
But in the meantime...
William sort of jumps in and says, "You're quite right, sir. The family plot just is sprung into my head because you mentioned it last night, but there's nothing there to see except the old graves. I'd say we all head to the maze. And, I'll show you around all of it. And as you say, you'll be here for many days to come, at least."
I still advise the breaking of the party.
Oh, I see.
But I wonder if it might
whatever
not be
you prefer.
better if... what do you think, Sydney? Peregrine?
Sorry, Edward, can I speak to you in private for just a second?
No, of course.
I take you aside and say, listen, I don't know what your expertise is, but something he said about the feature at the centre of the maze, he mentioned markings upon the statues. Now, I don't know what your occult knowledge is. I have a passing knowledge of some occult matters. However, I also concede that I can commune with vibrations not of this plane.
No, you are absolutely right. I think I panicked slightly.
No, I'm panicking.
Because I suddenly thought... I thought that might be necessary. God, look at him. Peregrine looks so awkward. Why can't...
We can't leave Peregrine with Mr. Breed.
He's such a terrible actor. Why can't he act? It was just like this at school. Do you remember when he played the third wise man? Christ alive. It was like someone had stuck a fork up an angel.
Lovely
No, he was
voice.
a wise man, not an angel. But I mean, you see my point.
I submit to your gut instinct, Edward. Where should I go?
No, I am in your debt. You must go to the centre, and I shall declare at once.
Right.
Are you with me?
Yes.
Meanwhile, Peregrine is stood by himself, staring out at the sort of beautiful winter day. In the bleak
Jesus.
I think I turn around and I declare, no, my mistake, and actually, Sydney's quite right. He should attend the centre of the maze, in your good company, William, and, do you know, I think it's only fitting that I visit where poor Thomas Caldwell rests. I say poor, but I mean...
I think that makes a lot of sense, and Sydney, I believe you and William may have a conversation that you might want to continue.
What? I gesture.
and I say very unsubtly, because it's not really my thing, ghosts.
Anyway, it's over here, isn't it? I say, limping off, and then remembering that I need to walk with my cane.
Yes, on the mention of something you want to keep discussing, William sort of sidles over to you, Sydney, and says, well, follow me. You fellas are just down the path that way. And he sort of takes you by the shoulder and marches you off.
Mm.
And
cock-a-doodle-doo.
Edward and Peregrine, he's pointing you in the direction. It's past the... on the very left of the house, there's a sort of stables that is almost a lean-to on the side of the building. And past that, there's a clear path going into the trees. And that's where he was pointing.
So, Ned, do you mind if we make a quick detour through the herb garden? It was really looked quite extensive from the window, and I'd love to see if they have anything, if you really have anything unusual growing there that maybe I could take a cutting of.
I see no harm in it. Yes, why not?
Excellent. So the herb garden, as gestured by... so it's, if you're heading that way, it's just a slight detour to the left. It's round the back of the house, but it's in the same sort of general direction. And as you walk around the side of the house, you come across this sort of rockeries and sort of circular patterns around just of paving stones and such. But there's a lot of herbs growing on the ground. There's a sort of fountain in the middle with a statue.
Oh, can I have a little closer look at the statue? Maybe.
Yeah, please.
Wouldn't you be better looking at the herbs while I look at the statue, old chap?
That's a very good idea. I'm going to transfer that excellent spot hidden roll, which is, in fact is an extreme success. If that's quite
Excellent.
I only say it as you're looking at the statue. No.
Exactly, but then something catches my eye in one of the beds nearby.
Yes.
Because this herb garden is something that I haven't really seen anywhere outside Selborne, Hampshire,
No, it's impressive.
It's yeah.
So your first thoughts are, you see the obvious things that you'd expect, the sort of cooking and aromatics, the sort of rosemary, lavender, sage, all that sort of thing. But there also seems to be a large quantity of slightly less common herbs that you'd expect outside a kitchen garden, such as there's Acanthus mollis, or sea holly. There's Coleus amboinicus, country borage, various herbs that seem slightly less usual. Was it an extreme success?
It was.
So...
I don't know. Is this an M.R. James book? This is astonishing.
With that extreme
With an
success...
extreme success, we must go deeper into Wikipedia than we've ever been before.
You realise that...
really good.
Yeah, you've got a Acanthus mollis or sea holly. You remember it's called sea holly. With an extreme success, you also remember someone referring to it colloquially as bear's foot or bear's breeches.
I don't know. I don't know this.
Amboinicus or country borage. You remember there is some bear connection there as well, but it's forgotten to you. But there seems to be the holly element and the bear element seem to be quite potent in all of the herbs there. And you also
Run away!
your eye is drawn to, as you're looking at the herbs, a sort of hemisphere around the herb garden itself of far wilder herbs. And with an extreme success, I think I can tell you that, like, from a sort of glance at what's surrounding this, quite, it's an odd, eclectic collection of herbs around this.
I'll go over and have a look at the one surrounding.
Yeah. The others sort of draw your eye to wolfsbane, foxgloves,
Okay, yeah.
cuckoo pint, deadly nightshade,
They're all poisonous.
Poison.
hemlock. There's a lot of poisonous plants surrounding these other herbs. But, I mean, they're clearly growing wild. It's just they've not been cut back in a while. The majority of them are sage, rosemary, all the cooking ones, along with a few odd choices like Acanthus mollis or Coleus
Italian
amboinicus.
herbs.
Herb de Provence. And meanwhile, Joseph, were you looking at the statue?
Yes, I think Ned will stroll up with his cane, and I should hasten to add, I don't have my shotgun with me.
That's fine.
Important in these things to say that
Good to know.
I've observed decorum, shaved, dressed
right.
correctly, and left my shotgun upstairs.
Yes.
Actually, no, I probably left it in the gazelle's feet at the entrance to the house.
Muzzle down in the...
It's M.R. James, you can always just walk swiftly.
Yes.
Yeah, quite right.
Yes. Well, you say that. But sometimes what follows walks
Read swiftly.
all the more swiftly. But I will approach the statue and cast my archaeological eye, keen amateur archaeological eye over it. Because I'm interested in what date this... Is this Jacobean or is it pre-Jacobean, this herb garden? Is one of my focuses and my foci. 45, yes, I've passed. It's not hard, but it's a good, solid
Excellent.
success.
So, looking at the statue itself, it seems somewhat... It's a satyr. How do you pronounce it? Satyr?
I
fawn.
like, yes, that's the pronunciation that my old Latin master used to prefer.
A satyre. Either way, the statue itself seems in the same style as the temple you saw earlier. It seems more modern than not.
Right,
Like it's very practically made. It's very solidly made, but it's not weathered enough. It's not anything approaching
This
a
century
decent thing. There's something odd about it. It's this satyr playing the flute like that, and there seems to be a differentiation in materials. The flute seems different from the statue, but the herb garden as a whole seems to be made in oddly cyclical patterns, maybe almost Celtic looking.
Yeah, that's what you made me think.
But it's hard to tell from your angle. If you looked out of an upstairs room in the daylight, maybe you'd have a different. But from where you are, that's what you.
Note to self: must study the herb garden from a more aerial position, the bird's eye view. I say to myself. I actually mutter it aloud. I say the bird's eye view, and it makes me think. Of course, Yes, but it makes me think of Peregrine. And I say, Pip, Perry, Pip. Sorry, Peregrine.
Yes, Ned.
Why don't you come and take a look at this pipe with me? Unless there's something you have there. No,
just a moment, and I'm kind of frozen in this horrible sort of moment. I've taken out my pocket knife to take some cuttings of some of these herbs and realised that it still has dried blood on it from the night before, and I'd almost forgotten the way it had last been used in this act of violence. So sort of freeze for a bit as I look on it, and I quickly wipe it on my trouser leg, and then I take cuttings of the sea holly, the borage, and then also a couple of the more deadly herbs just on the outskirts. Just some sort of instinct makes me think you never know what you might need.
Absolutely.
So as I'm taking those cuttings, I say, what was it you wanted me to have a look at, Ned?
Come and have a look at this pipe, and I'm going to make a study of the pipe.
Please do.
Is there anything you would like me to roll specifically, Keeper of Arcane Law, and indeed Provost of King's College, Cambridge?
In the moment, all you can tell is, unless you're sort of touching it or reaching up to the statue in the centre of the fountain, it just looks like a different material, but it draws your eye. It's so different. So that's why I mentioned it.
Yeah. If there's nothing that I can visibly see that is curious, such as switches or openings or prayers to Azathoth, then I will attempt to touch the pipe.
Excellent. It's just a fawn sort of playing it out to the side like that.
Yeah, that's what my classics master used to say as well. But let's just keep it clean. Come on, we're trying to use this.
Yes, quite right. How do you do?
Rub your stones and clean your flute.
What am I rolling here?
Or
can I just grab it?
No, well, I mean, you can, but if you want to glean anything from it, are you grabbing it and then trying to see what?
I'll pick it up so I can examine it. If I can remove it,
it comes off. In your
my
hands.
instinct is I can remove it.
There's a slight bit of resistance, but it essentially slides out of the fawn's hands, and he's left there looking like some sort of odd mime artist. And you have this flute in your hands. So if you'd like to do me, say, a natural world or maybe a
occult?
I don't know. Occult, yes, that could do it.
Natural world, not good.
I could certainly do a natural world.
It depends.
World,
Are you studying it, or are you looking for details on it, or are you trying to discover the material? There's various different things.
Blow into it.
I think Ned's angle, aside from blowing into it, which is of course very tempting, and I feel oddly compelled. But I think his angle would be, does he see anything unusual on it? Because unfortunately, that's the way the law works.
Luckily, there's no M.R. James about blowing into any sort of whistling thing.
No, nothing wrong about blowing into a pipe in M.R. James, is there?
Have a wee look.
And I can see Peregrine approaching, and it's almost a sort of grainy 1970s shot of him being slightly out of focus as he's approaching, as I'm looking at this pipe going, and I sort of pass the pipe round the front of my lips, but I don't quite connect to it as I'm looking at the other side. And then I mutter to myself, Peregrine, Falcon, Peregrine, yes, interesting. A 12. That's a good. That's a hard, not an excellent, but it's a hard success in my.
And you were rolling on a cult. So the first thing you see as you turn it over in your hands, there's an odd texture to the piece, but that's for later, perhaps. There's a smoothness you weren't expecting. And the first thing you see is
smoothness you won't accept.
I think you said a smoothness you weren't expecting.
You won't accept it either.
That's very Lovecraftian, though.
As you turn it over, the sort of the darker side of it that seems to have moss or whatever on it, you see a series of indentations. You realise very quickly that it's writing, and the first thing you pick out are two swastikas.
For luck.
One at either side, and in between them a sort of Latin phrase. which, given your Roman history, I can just tell you what it says. Quis est iste qui venit.
See now, because, obviously, I'm just doing my translation in my mind's eye when Peregrine comes up and sees the words himself.
Well, let's have a look at that.
Oh, so, yes, of course, I say.
First thing I'd like to do is a natural world roll to see what the material is it's made of.
Please do, yeah.
And that's an extreme success.
An extreme success?
Oh, if I spend 1 luck, it's an extreme success, yeah.
Well, with an extreme success, you realise almost immediately as it's handed to you that it is bone. On sort of running your hands over it and figuring the shape, you feel like it must be... Well, you look at it and there's no way of knowing because it's carved to a certain extent. It's a flute after all. But you get the distinct impression that your best guess would be that it was the femoral, the femur of not a fully grown human, perhaps a child's thigh bone or something along those lines.
Oh, God.
But hollowed out. Meanwhile, Sydney, you're on your way to the maze with William.
And Bombay at this time of year is actually marvellous.
Is that right, sir?
Yeah,
I've heard as much.
If you ever get chance to go, you simply must. It's a marvellous country.
Well, I'd love to.
Folklore and tradition, much like our own.
Yes, well, quite. Most places are, I suppose.
Yes.
You reach the entrance of the maze, and he sort of he looks at it, and it looks very in the light. You can see the sort of like the holly hedges that were going around the edge. They go up into an arch over the entrance, and it seems very overgrown. And he sort of mutters to himself, and he's like, well, I'll have to excuse me, sir, I'll have to cut a bit of this back.
It's all right. You sure we won't get lost?
Oh, no, I'm sure as soon as I'm in there, sir, I know exactly where to go. It's just I can't quite put it down into words.
Has anyone ever got lost in the maze before?
Oh, yes, I'm certain they have.
But they were rescued, I presume.
Oh, I presume as well. And he starts hacking at the thing.
That's what you want to hear.
And as that's happening, you hear a rustling to your left-hand side, Sydney. Over just you hear a sort of like a skittering. It's almost as if something's been thrown at you along the gravel path, and you catch a sense of something moving away behind the corner.
Samuel Martins.
What was that, sir?
Oh, just wondered if that child's... we should probably check...
I wouldn't worry about that, sir. It's just them with their tomfoolery. Samuel will be back home by now, I'd imagine.
Who's tomfoolery, sorry?
Oh, the children.
What children?
Oh, the children around the area. They're always coming up to the boundaries and throwing things. And you can't say as you didn't see them yourself on the way up, sir, surely.
Yeah, yes, I remember now. Yes.
Yes. As he's talking, another stone skitters past your ankles.
God, they're good shots, aren't they? Army.
I don't know about that. So he's busy himself in the sort of cutting away the loosest bits of holly around the...
You mentioned, sorry, keep going on about it. You mentioned talking about people going missing in the maze. You mentioned that no children would ever go missing in here on your watch. Do you remember that last night? We were talking about the maze, and I just wondered, the way you said that, who was in your position? Who was your predecessor?
My predecessor, sir.
Did you have one? I presume.
No, I'm not so certain that I did. And he gets back to cutting away the holly.
You must have gained your employment here at some point.
Oh, I'd say I'd gained it by this time, sir. And another stone skitters past you.
Yeah, so your previous master, Mr. Caldwell, was he the first to have the house? You worked for him, yes?
Oh, yes, I worked for him. Don't worry about that. The Caldwells, they've always had the house, sir. And he goes back to cutting away at the holly.
So no one had your job before you?
Well, all I'd say is I never knew someone who had my job before me, sir. Perhaps we weren't introduced.
So when did you start working here?
And he sort of stops cutting and says, quite loudly, "Do you, sir, something over there to the edge of the hedge, sir?"
I'm sorry, the dialect.
I heard a noise over there, sir. Did you see anything?
It was the children, wasn't it?
What children, sir? And suddenly a rock skimmies away from your foot on the other side. And you spin around, and it's your friend. Holding his arms out wide. It's Polly. It's Peter Ainsworth with a cheeky grin on his face, and he's coming towards you like this. Silly, wag, how are we? Wag. Oh. And I'll just cut back to Joseph and Dan. So you've got this flute, and it seems to be made out of not a very pleasant substance, and you've sort of overlooked the herb garden. You sort of got lost on your way to the family plot, but what's your next move?
Ned, to me that looks like this instrument is made of some sort of bone, and I couldn't be certain. I could be certain, but I don't want him to know that. I couldn't be certain, but I think maybe a human leg bone.
Good God, man. Now you mention it, yes. Although, how old would that be? I don't mean how old's the bone. I mean, how old's the person? No. I don't think about that.
I mean, I couldn't be too sure. You know, people, sometimes country folk, malnutrition, people grow at different rates. So I wouldn't want to say for sure, but it's certainly a smaller femur than someone of the size of you and I would possess, if you know what I mean.
I do. I think, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I think I might know what you mean. Let's take it with us.
Is this a little inscription written on it?
Yes, I think you know what it says as much as I do. But
let's take a look.
Read it anyway.
I'm gonna roll my Latin, and oh dear, well I failed. I said, I can't quite make that out, and I'm gonna push it. What could possibly go wrong?
What was that last word again? There.
Let me hold that up to the light, and I just hold it up. And turn and just tilt it so that the low winter sun casts a light across, and then maybe the shadow in the engraving is sort of amplified, and it's a much clearer print that way. And I have another look at it, and I fail again.
As he does that, I hear a faint whistling of a gentle breeze passing through. It's just the way he's brought it up.
It's at the right angle.
I just hear it. And I grab his arm and I say, "No, stop that, man. Wayne, it means coming, doesn't it?"
Yeah, sorry.
And then I grab him and I go, "Well, let's go to those graves. Let's look at those graves," I say.
Yes.
And I start pulling with me.
And I'm just, my eyes are fixed on the flute. I don't understand why I can't read this simple Latin phrase. And I feel I have to take it with me. It's almost like it's glued to my hands. But
although you can't read it in the slightest, you've almost no idea of what it says. You have a feeling of what it means, but you just can't confirm it. With the language, you have a sort of gut instinct that someone might be coming.
No, I know.
I've no idea.
I've got this. It's just a weird mental block that I have, and it's something to do with the way when I held it up, I heard the whistle of the wind through it, and
So as you two stumble through the sort of the undergrowth towards the graveyard,
it's just up ahead here, isn't it? Look, I can see. Yes, there's a.
Yeah, I can see it.
The ground is uneven. The telltale signs of the sepulchres of a family that have lived here, 3-4 generations? I wish Sydney was with us.
Who knows?
As Edward and Peregrine stumble through the iron-wrought sort of railings into this very small family plot, very small cemetery, and your first instinct is there are 3 sort of quite tall mausoleum-type structures, not mausoleums at all, but memorial-type structures, and a number of other sort of slightly more humble gravestones. Sydney, you're so taken aback by what you've seen. It takes you out of the situation slightly, and before you know it, Peter's arms around you, and he's sort of you're surrounded by hedgerows, and he's sort of is
he in the holly bush again?
No.
It's just him.
It's him as you know him, and he's sort of he's whispering in your ear, and he's sort of saying, "This will put the wind up them. Come with it. We'll freak them out. Don't you worry about that." And you realise that you're feeling slightly hazy, but you're surrounded by hedgerows, very tall. You realise you're in the maze, and he's sort of leading you through it in quite a sort of friendly but quite forceful manner, and sort of saying, We'll see them in the centre. Don't you worry about that. We'll put the wind up them.
I don't know if they're coming to the maze today, but
Oh, they will. Don't you worry about that. Sydney, wag. Look at me. Look in my eyes, and you look in his eyes, and it's the man you've known your whole life, and he says, "Let's put the wind up them. That'll teach them."
Yes, that'll teach them.
This was an Apocalypse Players production. For more information about the podcast, go to apocalypseplayers.com. Thanks for listening.